Hi, my relatives. Welcome back to another episode of the Our Storytellers podcast, brought to you by our friends at the Indigenous Screen Office. Check them out if you're an Indigenous screen creative and would like to have access to granting opportunities. They're also amazing people to know, so please check them out. On today's episode of Our Storytellers, we're joined by Frances Nahanee. Frances is a member of the Squamish Nation. On today's episode, we talk a lot about growing up on the North Shore, what that was like. Mom and her get into some historical facts about August Jack Khatsilano, and today she has a gift shop in Sechelt. So definitely check out her website in the description of wherever you're getting this. And without further ado, let's jump into the podcast.
Hello, my relatives. How are you? Here at Our Storytellers, we care about your spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical well-being, which is why we want to inform you that this podcast discusses topics that may cause trauma to listeners and viewers. These subjects include mentions of Indian residential schools, assimilation, ongoing harm, colonial impacts, and much more. Our Storytellers recognizes the need to minimize the risks associated with traumatic subject matter. The Hope for Wellness Helpline offers immediate help to all Indigenous people across Canada. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to offer immediate support and crisis intervention. Services are available in English and French, and in Nehiyaw, Anishinaabe and Inuktitut upon request. If you or someone you know are experiencing any harm, no matter how big or small it's perceived to be, you can call the toll-free helpline at 1-855-242-3310 or connect to the online chat at www.hopeforwellness.ca. Kinanaskuman, I'm grateful for you. Your ancestors are always with you. All my relations, Riel.
Fran, thanks for coming to hang out with us today. To formally and traditionally introduce myself, my name is Riel. I'm Métis from Nehiyaw and Soto background, and my family comes from the Red River, actually. And I joined Mom's family when I was about 10, 11 years old, and when Mom and Dad got together in jail, and
we met in jail.
Yeah, they met in jail, and
we worked in the same jail, by the way. Just to clear the record up here. Yeah, we worked in the same jail. I know, that's hilarious.
And so I mean, I'm from a ceremonial family. I grew up following a Sundance family, and both my parents were Sun dancers, and I have some protocol here for you, and just to ask you to come sit down and share some stories with us and talk a little bit about your life. And I'm super grateful for the time. We have a blanket and some tobacco, and then I also have this honorarium here that's provided by our grantors at the Indigenous Screen Office, and we're so grateful for their partnership to bring these 20 interviews together. So I'm going to pass this over to you, and please introduce yourself in your own way.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Fran Nahanee. My ancestral name is Khatsahlano. I was born and I come from the Mission Reserve, Khatsahlano. But my ancestry is in Chukwatinchunk, which is Gibsons. I come from the family of Chopalam and Quachtanot. And my mom is Cowichan. Her ancestral name is Menotlawit. And my great-grandmother was from Katesy. So I'm definitely a Coast Salish woman.
What was growing up like?
What was growing up like was very, very good. I grew up on the Mission Indian Reserve, so it was very much going to church all the time. I was born in 1959, so during the 60s, we spent most of that 10 years as Catholics and not necessarily learning much about our Coast Salishness. we actually knew very little. My ta'a did speak the language. My ta'a was Agnes Lackett Joe. She was married to Lackett Joe. So my grandmother was Margaret Lackett Joe. And so we actually spent time with her. She was really old when I was young. But I remember she only spoke the language. My dad was really good at, he was very good at keeping recordings of my ta'a. So I have a recording of my ta'a Agnes talking the language to my dad. He's asking her about ancestral names and her father's name. She wanted to know, at the time she wanted to know why my dad wanted to know her father's ancestral name. And her name was Agnes Moses, and she was from Desroches. And so on this recording, she is telling my dad her father's name. And my dad, not speaking the language, tried to say it in the language, and had to say it a few times, and said it a few times, and she wanted to know why he wanted to know it. And my mom said, well, someday, we might pass that name down, to maybe one of your great-grandchildren. Yeah. And right now, Zane, my Eileen, my sister Eileen's grandson, carries that his name.
Wow.
That's
amazing. It is.
Awesome. So it's
I
come to pass.
Yeah, and so he's listened to that recording, and so he knows where that name came from, and
awesome
and that ta'a has talked about it on that recording. So that we grew up with her, and she was pretty old, and she also sang the prayer song.
Wow.
At that time too. She sang that prayer song, so it's on that tape as well. Beautiful. And so when we were growing up, my dad was a chairperson at the church, because my mom and dad are very Catholics.
Yep.
My mom still is very strongly in her prayer. She's very powerful, my mom is. And she's now 97. She'll be 98 in July. And she had 15 children. And we all lived in this small little wartime house that my dad dragged from McKay Avenue. There used to be wartime houses. I think we all had those. And they were all dragged up to the Mission Reserve. And my dad, being a very resourceful man, he built the basement, because it was just like the one level, and I think it was just a kitchen, maybe a bathroom, and a small living room and a bedroom maybe. My dad put a basement on it. He added a bigger kitchen. He added 2-3 bedrooms, and we all grew up in that house. And
wow.
My mom still lives in the same spot there, but they've built her a house, a second house, so she lives in there now. But that's where we grew up, on the Mission Reserve, and it was really great, actually. We lived very protected because of the way my mom grew up. She didn't want us to be exposed to some of the things that she experienced as a young girl. She was the second oldest, and her mother passed away when she was 12, and so she lived in kind of a dysfunctional family, and she chose that she would not let her children be exposed to what she did. So we were really lucky. There was no alcohol or drinking in our home, and my mom was really awesome, because when we were growing up, she also took in, when she married my dad, she came to the Squamish Nation. I think she was like 18. And she brought with her 3 younger siblings, because her parents had died So she said when she came to the Squamish Nation that people had thought she had already had 3 children, but these were her siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she said they were poor as dirt, really. Her youngest siblings ended up going to residential school because they just didn't have the money to feed and clothe them. And she lost her youngest sister at the residential school. She died from pneumonia. She ended up going to Cooper Island. Marie, her name was.
Ooh.
And so my mom, I think, really was heartbroken about having to
Give up on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And then my mom also, she also had a family in Cowichan, and she had a sister who struggled as well, and she had, I think she had about 10 children too, my Auntie Charlotte, and her kids, starting with Ronnie, came as soon as they were in grade 8. They came and lived with us,
Yeah.
and then so he went a year, and then his brother Bert came and lived with us, and then Harvey came and lived with us, and Willard came and lived with us, and the youngest girl, I can't even remember her name actually, but she's passed on now though. But my mom just, that's the way my mom was, you know. She just, even though there was so many of us in that little house, she had room. we had room somehow.
Somehow everybody fit.
Everybody
Yeah.
fit, and she was, you know, that was my mom, and she's still like that. You know, she's a powerhouse, and she believes extremely in prayer, and she's taught us a lot about when we experienced as mothers hardships with our children, that we had no control over. That she taught us prayer is the power of prayer. So she's great. My mom is.
What's your dad like? Or what was your dad
My
like?
dad is great too. I love him so much. I miss him so much. But my dad, like I said, he was great at when he was a young boy. I think he said he was 15 years old, he said, but he went to school. So some of the older elders didn't know how to read and write. So they knew my dad knew how to read and write. So August Jack and Andy Paull called my dad and told him to write this down. So they got my dad to write ancestral names, like, and who they belong to. I actually have the written paper
Really?
of it. Yeah,
Nice.
and
Right now, you have it?
I don't think I have it on me, but I
Okay.
have it.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
I probably have a picture of it. But anyway, so my dad started learning from them those things at that time. So he started learning to record things. He had to record them because he said he didn't know why but obviously because he knew how to write.
Yeah.
So that's when he also started to, record them with the reel-to-reel tape recorders. So there's tape recorders of Ta'a speaking the language and talking about ancestral names, and I have actually lots of recordings of my dad, but he also knew a lot of the stories. And like when I moved to Sechelt, I was pretty young when I was expecting my son. And my dad would come up to Sechelt. I don't know if he actually came to get me. He probably went to Paull River or something and picked me up on the way back. But I like the fact
He had
that
other things to do.
I like the fact to say that he came and got me. Anyway, my dad would come and get me.
That's funny.
Anyway, so that's what I really like about this book. But anyway, I kind of, my dad would come and get me.
Hey, my relatives, super quick pause in this episode of Our Storytellers just to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by our partners at the Indigenous Screen Office. The Indigenous Screen Office supports Indigenous narrative sovereignty through storytelling on screen. They provide grants to small podcasts like us to support our growth and to support the guests that we can have come on. Big thanks to them. Please check them out on Instagram. Please check out their website. You never know, there might be an opportunity for you on there, especially if you're creating content. Get out there and check them out. Thank you so much to our partners at the Indigenous Green Office. Back to the podcast.
So we're sitting in the car waiting for the ferry. So we're waiting in the lineup of the ferry, and we're at the top of the hill. And my dad starts to tell me about like how we belong here in Gibsons. This is where our family is from. So he tells me the creation story. Like I knew it before, I've heard it before, but he's got me captive audience, just like August Jack in the canoe.
Yes.
I figured he's because he's always tried to tell me stuff, but it's kind of like you're just like, oh yeah, okay, Dad, But this time I'm like captive, and so he's telling me about the creation story and about our ancestry and that we came from here. Our ancestors came from here, and then he starts to tell me, because we're still waiting. He starts to tell me the story of the Twin Creeks, like the Twin Creeks in Langdale.
Okay. Yep.
And then we get down to the ferry terminal, and we're sitting in it, and it's March. It's in the month of March. And it's late in the month of March, and I'm sitting there, and my dad is, we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden, it was like raining. And then all of a sudden, these big, huge snowflakes start coming down. It was just like, I'm like, holy cow, Dad, it's like late in March. Look at that snowing.
Snow.
I said, look how big those snowflakes are. And of course he's like, the old people used to call that the frog snow. He'd say just before spring, just before spring, there's always the last snow, and those snowflakes are all really big.
Huge.
And those are the frogs coming down. And then soon you'll hear the frogs. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, Dad.
Yeah.
And then of course, after that, every March, I would be like I'd be sitting outside, and then I would see the frog snow, and then I would think of my dad and telling me that story. And so I'd be like, oh my God, and I'd be like, and so when my dad passed, I just like all the time in March, I always wait and look for that frog snow. So those are the things that my dad told me about the culture and the stories and the importance of that belief in the teachings of all of those stories.
The origin stories that come from back, because somebody told him.
Yes, and it would have been like August Jack, and because August Jack also wrote a letter, and down at the Longhouse there was this Paull there that had, I think it had what did it have on there? The sea line, because the story in Gibsons, the origin story in Gibsons of our two ancestors, right? It's a Constan and Quachtanot, and they had these children. One of them was Sechelt, which is the name my dad carried because he comes down that line. So Uncle Louis carried that name. Uncle Louis comes down the same line, and so he gave that name to my dad before, and when he was older, right? Because my dad comes down that line.
Wow.
So it was my dad who told me about us belonging to that area through Chopalem and Quachtanot. And August Jack wrote, and this was in 1958, wrote this letter because of that Paull. He wanted to explain how my family, the Lackett Joes, belonged to that the first people of Gibsons, right? Okay. Because Chopalem or Constan August Jack explains in this letter that he remembers 3 of the sons of Sechelt, and one of them was Shopalum. And so whether it was the same Shopalum or because the names have been handed down, my dad says you don't know if they, how many generations those names have gone back.
So, yeah.
Wow.
You don't,
Yeah, because
they're old names.
they're old names, and they can go, because our creation story is of the 2 first people who come from there, Sechelt and Sechelt and Sechelt.
Sechelt.
Yeah, and then the physical evidence there is of the artifacts that have been found in and around Chaquasp and Skunk, which is where our Bandlands is right now. Is Skunk, right? And Chaquasp would be like where Gibson's Market is, like where the bay is, right?
Okay, yeah.
And it only makes sense too, like, I mean, when you're,
occupied-
I know, they had $1 million waterfront property.
There now, yes.
They're looking for the prime real estate, right? And they're looking for a creek. They're looking for a bay, a protected bay.
Yep.
And that's like
That's what they
exactly
found.
and shell foods that were there,
Yeah.
clams and things like that, because there's
Plentiful.
massive clam middens there.
Yes.
But
As
those
well.
artifacts are dated from 8,000 to 10,000 years.
Yes.
And those are in the museum up there in,
Wow.
yeah.
And
It's,
so how
yeah, in
how big
Gibson's.
how big is our actual space up there?
I couldn't tell you exactly, but I mean, it's I'm sure that the traditional territory for our people was all the way
All the
along that shoreline,
Yeah.
because there was villages, a fishing village. They say at where the burial site is at Port Mellon.
I think so.
Yeah,
I
Port
think so. I
Mellon. There
haven't
would have
actually
been.
up there.
Yeah, there's a burial site there, right?
I didn't even know there was land up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I was telling her that initially when we sign up for our house to be on the waiting list, I actually signed up for Gibson's.
I would love to live in Gibson's,
I-
but that's never going to happen.
No,
Not in our lifetime.
not in our lifetime. That's very true.
But yeah,
I'll get you something.
well, it's a beautiful place to live for sure. But the story is just amazing, and August Jack actually in that letter says that the sons of Sechelt, who is Shopalum, is our great 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 grandfather, and that my dad's mother, who is Margaret Lackett Joe, and Andy Paull was married to her sister, so she was Josephine. He was married to Josephine Lackett Joe. So Kathy and them's family, the Josephs. Well, they're Joseph.
Because Lackett Joe came from out in DeRoche.
No, Lackett Joe comes from Gibson's.
From Gibson's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Sechelt lived in Gibson's, and he married, and I think he married Haxton, lived there as well.
Right.
And they
'cause
had
she was one of the oldest women at the time.
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the stories that she has to tell in that book too,
Yeah,
of
they
what
were
she did,
fantastic.
and so my dad actually talked a lot about Haxton too,
Wow.
about what he knew about Haxton, and she's just like, she would have been a woman, like such a good example of a traditional woman.
Very strong.
Many of our
traditional.
women were like that. They outlived many husbands,
Yeah.
but they always like they say, I think they believe that Haxton lived well into her hundreds,
Yeah.
right?
For me and the listener, who is Haxton?
Haxton is, let's see. I'm not sure how
They considered her one of the oldest members of our nation, and it was somebody that she was older than Khatsilano at the time. And Matthews asked about Haxton because he was relaying a story
I
that
remember
was.
this. I don't remember this in the book.
Oh, yeah,
there's lots about her in there.
There is lots about her.
'Cause
in there, and
anything-
referrals about
yeah.
her are made. in
Anything
regards
that
to things.
August Jack couldn't really remember, he would say, "We'll have to ask the old lady Haxton."
Old lady,
she
yeah.
she would
Right,
remember
right,
it,
He
right?
would refer
right.
to
And
her
she
for
talks
for
about
it,
Haxton talks about she talks about that, that down here in Khatsahlano was the last sort of raid from the Kwakiut.
Yes.
Came down, so there was more like a war, like a slaughter.
Yeah.
And the Squamish slaughtered a lot of the Kwakiut in the canoes because they would come by here and try to take slaves, I guess, or whatever. But I would, yeah.
The last war.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then she was with her husband, and they were paddling, and I think that said Gibson's, that they paddled up, and she had seen something, berries, I think gooseberries or something in the bush that she had seen. So he was going to go and drop her off, and she got there, and she went in to go and pick berries, and she found the corpses of the slain Kwakiut, because when they had the war, they picked up their dead when they were paddling back, and then they just, dropped them off somewhere on the side. So that was Haxton.
I remember that
Yeah.
story.
So my wife's grandmother, very old woman, said to be 115 years old. Anyways, it's easy to see she is over 100. Told me the story in the same way. She is Mrs. Harriet George. Her Indian name is Haxton. She died in 1936.
Right.
Okay. I knew I'd find it fairly because there are many references to her.
Yeah, there is a lot of references to
Yeah.
her because she had seen a lot. There's a lot of pictures of her too, like in the museum in Ottawa. What is that museum called? It used to be Museum of Natural History,
The Museum of Natural
it used to
Man or
be,
something
yeah,
it was called.
something.
Yeah.
It's the one with all the native longhouses and everything in there, and it's either in
have to go to
Gatineau or Ottawa.
We're going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you should. And
We go in August.
because they have some blankets there, hey, that belong. Actually, they brought some of Haxton's blankets back from there, but they have this video of her, and it's in 19. What is it? What year is it in?
Well, she
It's
died
like
in
1960.
1960.
Yeah, I think it.
1936
I
she
think
died.
it is like. I think it's a 1920 video.
It must be like 29 or something like that.
I think it's a 1920 video.
Oh, exactly.
And
20.
yeah, and she is she's working wool. She's sitting there and she's working wool. She's got a she's got a stick and she's doing this. She's getting all of the. Wow. And then they show her teasing the wool. And then they show her with a spindle wheel spinning the wool. So she's spinning the wool, and I'm sure it was, she must have worked with mountain goat wool.
Yeah.
And then they show her at a loom, weaving a blanket. So you'll see the pictures of her doing that in the books called like Coast Salish weaving book. That it's in there.
Okay.
So you'll see this little lady with a white. Of course, they all wore like
Let me see if I can
shawls.
find
Shawls, right?
Yeah,
So-
you'll just put Haxton. You'll probably come up with it.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful video. I did have it too at one time, but of course, technology and me aren't friends.
Well, you probably got lots of stuff in your store.
Yeah.
I still want to get over
Yeah,
there because
yeah.
it's funny. I talked to you years ago when I did my cookbook,
Yeah.
and and that at that time, and of course, Mom had done a bunch of little books too. So, when I found out about your store, I'm like, I so have got to get over there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun. Like I'm so, I just can't believe that I had that for so long, and the life that went by owning that store. You know, I was only very young when I started it, and I don't know. I don't even know how I did it. You know, because
A lot of help and support.
yeah.
When you were saying initially getting it off the
and
ground.
also remember we were talking about like being in a Nahanee and being like a Spitfire. Well, I didn't want anybody to say that I couldn't do it. I think
Right. There's always a little bit of that drive
there
in
is.
our.
For the listener, tell us a story about your store.
Okay, well,
It's a great story.
I had actually the greatest, what do you call it, opportunities when I moved to Sechelt.
What brought you to Sechelt?
My husband is from there. His name is Darren Dixon, and his father used to be the chief up there. He was a very well-liked person, and so he's from Sechelt, from the Sechelt people, and I moved up there. I was 25, and I actually was working here at Woodward's, and I had to quit my job to move there, and I couldn't get UI because I was moving to a depressed area. Is the explanation why I couldn't get. I was like, what? That's weird. Anyway, so being me, I had to find a job pretty quick, because I couldn't just do nothing. Anyway, so I worked before that, and I went to school and did a few things, and then so I was 25 when I moved there. And when I was 32, I was expecting our son Ted. And then the nation was building their beautiful complex up there. It's called the House of Hahewas, which is the House of Chiefs, and they were building it. And I think it was 1991, May, it opened. And they wanted somebody to open up a native gift shop there. And I had been working at a grocery store for a long time, and then I was expecting my son, and then I was going to leave and go on my maternity leave, and the nation approached me, the Sechelt Nation approached me, and Paull was the chief at the time, and they asked me if I wanted to start a business, if I wanted to start a gift shop there, and I was kind of skeptical. No, not really. I didn't really want to, because I was having a baby, and I wanted to have my maternity leave and maybe be a mom. I don't know, and probably go back to work. But I told them that I wanted to have my baby and have my maternity leave. So they came back with the idea that they would own the store. They would give me the money to start the store, to buy things, to set everything up, to create this store. So I was like, oh, and I asked my mom, because she had already had a store, so she had a lot of connections already, so she helped me start the store, and so we opened it, and I was an employee for the band for about 4 years with this store, but I did everything, ordering everything.
As a business owner.
Yeah, as a business owner. Yeah, I learned how to, the nation helped me in everything, though. All the books would go upstairs, and then one of the ladies helped me to do my own books. And then they came down maybe about 3 or 4 years later, and they were like, it was pretty good and pretty successful then, and they came down and they said, oh, somebody's approached us and want to buy the store, and they're like, do you want to buy the store? And I was like, we're buying the store. So I was really lucky that the nation gave me that opportunity, and they actually loaned me the money to buy the store from them. Wow. And I paid them back through the store. And me and my husband actually owned the store, because I'm from the Squamish Nation, and so he had to be half owner of the store. So he's kind of like, he still is, but he's silent. He's a silent owner.
You did it, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. And we've owned it ever since. And now my son is going to take over, and I was expecting him, so he was there right from the beginning too.
Wow.
So he's now taking over the store, and I'm really happy about that because people want to buy the store, but it's kind of like my baby or my legacy.
Yeah,
It's very hard to like let go of something like that, right? I wouldn't even know how to go about selling it, but with my son wanting to take it over, we could actually
It's ideal.
yeah, we could just sign it over to him actually. That's the one good thing about it because it's actually a corporate business, so we can actually sign it over to him.
Do you have any good any funny stories or anything like that from owning the store over the years,
Oh, funny stories. I don't know if I have any funny stories. I was really lucky with the store because it actually helped me to get to know some of the local residents. I had a really good friend named Robert. They called him Nobby, and he was he was older than me, and he used to come when I first opened the store. He used to come and sit with me. He'll read this book and drink his Pepsi, right? But he would hang out with me all day if he had to, and so he would always help me hang stuff or whatever, things that I couldn't do. He's quite an older guy. And then he would tell me a lot of stories about residential school and
Wow.
and this one time, because he's sitting there and I'm just I don't know, I guess we didn't have any customers or anything. So I was learning about my culture and learning songs and everything. So I had a drum and I started drumming and singing a song. I'm singing away, and he's sitting there with his paper like this here, and he's just and I'm like, so what did you think? And he goes, keep your day job, he said. What a sassy guy. But he just, yeah, we just had a lot of different guys from the nation, old guys telling me stories, really awesome stories about the old days up there, and many of them, all of them actually, passed on. One by one they were gone, but I don't know that I had any really, I can't think of anything at the moment.
It's so amazing that your dad helped August Jack out, you know what I mean? And all those old leaders too.
August Jack was really pretty prevalent in our lives when we were young. He used to come to our house all the time. So I'm not exactly sure. I think he's my dad's grand uncle, and I'm not even exactly sure how that line, how it comes down that line. I've been told, but I can't remember it right now at the top of my head.
I'm thinking Cecilia, Johnny, and
oh yeah,
Tem Tem. Because I'm trying to think about the lines going back, but yes, it was kind of tied in through there. It gets a little harder to, at least in my genealogy, it's a little harder to put all the. It's not as clear as some of them I've seen that have been printed up for people. So I don't know whether they just.
Well, and also this line from Chikwath or Chopalam and Quachtanot, all of their sons and their daughters. I'm pretty sure he comes down one of those lines as well. Yeah. And also from those lines, just from those two, are thousands of Squamish Nation members come down all those lines.
Yes.
It's amazing how
all tied together. All directly kinship related.
You wouldn't think, I believe Lena Jacobs the bands come down that one of those lines. I remember my dad telling me.
Band Callis,
I concentrate on our line because it's overwhelming too.
Oh, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah. That's why it gets harder to try and figure out where it fits in there. And I've run into the same thing too.
And I think that if I was to do research on that, my sister Faye, she's in membership. So when I was doing my research on that Shopalum and Quashtanot, I was able to get, that goes, I think, 9 generations back from my granddaughter. So I was able to get that family tree.
Wow.
Yeah, of Shopalum and Quashtanot, and it was like over 200 pages.
Really?
And the family tree of Sechelt is like, I don't know, 40 pages or something.
Wow.
So how
Sechelt-
did you get those then?
How did I get the family tree?
Yeah.
You phone Faye
Yeah.
and you tell her whose family tree you want.
Oh, okay.
And you have a right to your family trees.
Especially all
If
the
you're-
connecting ones too.
Yeah, if
because
you're a
that's-
Squamish band member.
I got mine, but it was not the ones that were. It doesn't give. It only had a very.
Yours? Like, where does it start?
It starts. Well, it starts with me, and it goes all the way back, and then it trails to Khatsalano with some of the names. But as you get back to that 7 or 8, it's a lot thinner.
Oh yeah, definitely
A
is.
lot thinner.
It
so
is.
there needs to be what you're talking about is
Yeah.
quite a bit bigger
Yeah.
and more expanded.
Right.
So I'll have to get you to spell those names out for me so I can ask her to maybe where those family trees come out and pull them back.
Okay, I think I have my fam. I don't know if I have it here.
Okay.
Oh, not here.
Well, we'll connect anyway.
Yeah,
So.
I have Shopalums. I think I have it on my cell phone too.
Oh, wow.
I might be able to send it to you. I'll look for it.
Brilliant.
I'll see if I have it first. But you can ask Faye, and
Yeah.
she'll send it to you by email,
Yes.
or she'll print it out.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I was going to try and take a run down to the band office before I head out of town. So
Yeah, I
they're
would.
just across the street anyway.
You can just phone her too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're trying to name my granddaughter, Kavana, and she comes. Her grandfather was I forget now. Her great grandmother was Adeline Rivers. I think her name was Adeline Rivers.
Oh, wow. So it ties
So
up into the
so we
Rivers
got
line,
the
too.
Rivers. So we had to go and get the Rivers, right?
Yeah.
So for her to trying to find an ancestral name that she can carry that nobody else has.
Yeah, because it is a bit of a challenge.
It is
too, right?
extreme
Because-
challenge
yeah,
because everybody has the names. And that's the other thing with my dad, right? He believed that names need to be shared, and people shouldn't deny names because that's the way to keep those names alive,
keep them
right?
being heard
Yeah,
and told and
because a lot of
lived
people
and-
don't
carry.
want you to be carrying a certain name because they carry it and they want to give it to somebody else, and then it's just like ownership, kind of like when it's really about being a part, like
our
we were talking
community.
about being family,
Yep.
right? The idea that
Also
we're all
tied.
related. That's what my mom taught me, was that the ancestral names that she gave us belong to
Other people.
from Snanaimo and from Cowichan, and she belongs to those names. So she has a right to give those names, but she does it in the old way and going over
Yeah.
to the island to tell or to ask or to get permission to use those names or to tell people that she's wanting to use those names to give to her children. But a lot of the old people know that it's important that her children know who they are and where they came from by carrying those names. And if you go over to Nanaimo and I use my name over there,
Yeah.
that people will say, oh, my relations, you know,
Yeah,
you're
we
our
know
you're
you,
our
we
relative.
claim
We
you.
know who you are.
Yeah, we claim you as our family.
we know who you are.
You are
Yeah,
part of us.
and then so you feel you belong, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the way Coast Salish traditional our ways are. It's about
Real
us.
traditional ways.
Real
that
traditional
are
names,
not
and
with influences
Yeah.
that have outside.
Hi, my relatives. If you're enjoying this podcast, or if you have any feedback on this podcast, please let us know, because we're always trying to get better at the same time. But especially if you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think we have some really cool projects coming out that you might want to check out. Please follow us on Spotify. Share our reels as well too. That helps us out so much. And yeah, just check us out. Share the word. We're working really hard to keep this content coming for you, and the support helps us out so much, and we're so grateful. Thank you so much for listening. Back to the podcast. All right, can we clarify that for me? I was almost there for a second, but so the names you have to go to the community to ask permission to pass a name.
No,
In
you
the
go-
traditional
yeah.
way you have is a formal way of doing this.
you don't go to the community. You go to the people whom are your elders,
Okay.
who can give you permission to use that name.
Okay, gotcha.
Right, like my mom would have went to her grandfather
Okay.
from Nanaimo, or to say that she's going to use this name, and it belonged to my mom's mom's aunt, the name that I carry, and she's from Nanaimo, so it was okay for me to carry it. But she did it in a traditional way, and she went to make sure that there were people know that she's going to use that name. Because if you use that name without consulting anybody, you could hurt feelings.
Right.
You could
Create disharmony.
yeah, you could create disharmony, and somebody may come to your ceremony of giving that name and express their grief in that. Yeah,
their
they're
sadness,
yeah, that you didn't share that name, or say that you can't carry that name because I carry that name and I never gave anybody permission, like that.
Yeah.
That's the thing my mom made sure she avoided. And it took my mom probably about 4 years to have that ceremony, because she wanted to make sure that all of these names were cleared, and all of these people who carried those names were okay with her giving those names to us and inviting them to come. Wow. And we had to give gifts to those that carried our name. We had to give blankets to them. They were there. So
Protocols come along with
Protocol-
how this is done.
Yes.
There's a lot of strict rules in terms
There
of getting
is.
names. In the territory that we're here, our territory, those passing of names, you have a big ceremony. You are stood on blankets. It's you're wrapped in blankets, and then the ceremony goes on, and all the calling is done, and all the naming is done, and then you gift back, not only to, if you're sharing a name with somebody, but also to the community
for coming and witnessing your work.
Feed them.
You feed them a feast.
And very much, see, when we get traditional names in Sundance and you dance, you get your names. It's it's formal in that the names come, but they're the people that are in the lodge giving those names. Those people, they often see the name for you. They see you, and then they see that name, and it comes through.
Right.
And it's interesting, when my son got his name, so I want you to share your name.
Yeah.
He was a little chief at our Sundance, and he looked after all the children's ceremonies. So he was kind of that he helped and did all that work too. Because he had gifts that he could see, not only things that were going on spiritually when we're in the lodge, but he had this intuitive gift that saw people's names before he saw them sometimes. So now I want you to share your name if you're
Well,
okay
in
with that.
our culture, you can you have more than one name in a lifetime too.
Yes.
So
Different ages.
it seems like honestly, I don't know if this is true, but it seems like the difference is that in the Coast Salish way, I'm just learning about all this right now, but the name is the track of the family and the track of who you come from and stuff like that.
It is.
Whereas where we come from, like you can receive a different name, carry more than one name, you know, then you can also still pass those names along.
Right.
So like when I was born, my name was Apsisiquapiskasitmekanis, which means little white wolf. And I got that at Sundance. And then when I was 16 years old, I had my coming of age ceremony, which is a big thing for us. And big thing here too, even more intense here, like in this book, you know, the 10 years on the mountain and stuff like that too, right? But, and then I got the name there, Man Who Stands Up the Sundance Tree, in that fast, which is the name I've carried so far. And probably one day I'll take my dad's name too. When he goes on, which is his name is Piwapasqueno, which means the man who wears iron.
Right.
Or
He comes carrying metal, wearing metal.
yeah,
We call him Iron Man.
yeah,
I think up north, their names, like up in Alert Bay, a lot of their names up there have that type of meaning too. Whether they're nicknames or ancestral names, I think both of them might have been given. I've got this really good book of this woman. I forgot what her last name is. She's can't remember her name, but her name means paddle to where I stand. That's the name of the book. I love that book anyway. But she talks about traditional ways, whether that's like a nickname that was given to her or ancestral name. In the Coast Salish, the Coast Salish people, because we're all related to each other. This is our world. We could paddle from here to here to here, like up to Upper Squamish, to Chaquath or Gibsons, down into Burrard Inlet. All of us were related to each other, but we also had this connection with the wives that were married, because the men stayed in their lands. They were born to look after their lands and resources, to overrule their, or to look after their lands and resources. So when they're in that canoe, he's actually learning. August Jack was learning all about all of the, like, the social and their political and all of the laws and values and morals and laws of that land from his father, who had learned it from his grandfather, who was in the canoe at the same time. So their teachings were, they had photographic memory, because they had to remember these laws. If they wanted to rule the land, they wanted to rule it with the laws from their fathers and grandfathers. And the only way they could do that is by knowing the laws word for word.
yeah.
So they had these photographic memories. Now they're going to stay in this land. They're not going to, like, well, I would say this man here might have a mother from a different nation.
Yeah.
But this is where he's born, this is where he's going to rule, but he still belongs to that nation because his mother's from there and his family's from there. And Khatsalano was like that, because he had a Squamish family, but he also had Musqueam family, right? And so I think that's that those men married women from the different nations, and those women brought in the new blood, but they also brought the trade relationship and the political and just like the kings of England used to, like, right? Well, that's in that way they had this larger family, but they had this larger trade base, this larger economic base, this larger political laws that were the same.
Yeah.
And in that way, they could always remain in peace, right? And who doesn't want to be in peace? And it was the women that they married that brought that peace between the ruling men.
Yeah.
The peace and
right?
harmony amongst
Because because my mother's from here, so why would I go and war against those people over there? They're my people, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way the Coast Salish people, and that's why ancestral names were given. Because
Yeah.
those ancestral names can come from generation, like my dad said, you don't know how old those names were. They could be, 10 generations old,
Yeah.
because they have to be kept alive, because that's your connection to who you are and where you come from. And that's probably one of the most important things for our people is to know who, for your self-esteem and your pride and your our kids, in the school. That's one of the things that they say every morning is we come from good people, and they say it in the language at my granddaughter's school. They say that prayer that we come from good people. And in the end, they say, we know who we are and we know where we come from. It's an important thing. Like, I think it was part of our laws and values to know that.
And I think the first time I heard that was yesterday, or maybe a couple days ago. Who said we come from good people again? I'm loving these visits.
Gwen.
Yeah,
I think
maybe it was Gwen. Yeah, we come from good people.
Gwen
yeah.
who?
Harry.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. We've been visiting a lot. But
Visiting a lot, and then we went to visit Larry, Douglas, and Vera as well,
Right,
like Larry and Vera.
right.
We dropped in on them too.
Mm-hmm.
She helped me to find my way to weaving again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how, like, because I read the history of the Squamish Nation that was released by the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Have you read that book?
I'm not a very good reader.
You read this book a few times.
Yeah, because that is like, to me, and I know who Khatsalano is, and I
Yeah.
knew who Haxton is, and I knew who Andy Paull is, so I know the characters, I guess.
Yeah.
And I kind of like to, I read a lot of Louis Miranda too, in his, like, because he has a lot of, he's got a really good book. Of course, they're not published, but I think it's called The Life Cycles of the Squamish People. Have you read that?
Mm-mm.
Very good. Very
I don't know
good.
if I have.
I'll read that.
Yeah, and he talks about, like, right from the beginning of, like, when children are born and how they're treated and how they're loved and how they are allowed to do whatever they wanted to do and are watched over, but they're still loved, right? They're not disciplined or reprimanded, and then when they get to a certain age, and it's just like an understanding age. So let's say, I don't know, when kids understand, right? 6 maybe, I start to understand. So
25 if you're a guy.
yeah, well, it was different back then.
Yeah.
Many of the women were married by 12, right? And now it's like, oh my God, she's 12. Like, I mean, look at the life they had to live. And these young girls were actually trained to be wives, like trained to be good housekeepers, to get a good man to take care of them, to protect them. And you needed that back then, right? It's like, it's way different now. But anyway, that's a different story. What were we talking about? I forgot.
We were talking about
Oh, the life cycle of
the life cycle. of
Really
Louis
good.
Miranda.
You have to. And he talks about, like, he says that when children became understanding age, the sexes were separated, and the little boys were mentored by the men. So the first thing the little boy would learn to do was to bathe in the creek, and to
Show them that cold water.
bathe in the creek, because they're going to be like hunters and fishermen, and they had to be able to stand the elements in that way, be in a canoe the rest of their lives. And so then they were also taught to shoot a bow and arrow. And the little girls went with the mums, and they stayed with the mothers, and they teased wool, or they did what the mother was doing. She was like gathering plants, or seasonally harvesting for.
Yeah.
That's why they call us harvest gatherers, and the boys hunter, protector, provider. And so he talks about like how they kind of went into this like early education, and they had this dream of like being a great mountain goat hunter or something. And in their mentors were men who were mountain goat hunters, sea lion hunters, fishermen. So they were learning these skills, and then they were, boys will choose what they like the most. And then at puberty, they were trained to be in the Sechelt Nation. At puberty, they had a puberty rite for the men, and they would go to the Sechelt Lake. Sechelt Lake is supposed to be a really, really deep lake, like it's almost mysterious. Like supposedly the double-headed sea serpent comes in through the bottom of there's supposedly a hole in the bottom there. So it's kind of a scary place to be like bathing or swimming. So they had the boys actually, showing off their agility. They'd run across this really slippery rock ledge. They'd dive in the water. They'd go under the water, and they'd stay under there as long as they possibly could. They'd get to the other side. They'd climb the mountain, scale the mountainside. So they had all of these skills to, to be a good hunter, good swimmer, sea lion hunter, climbing that to be a mountain goat hunter. So this is their puberty rate. So it's almost like they were 13 or so. And then after that, they chose what their profession was going to be, sort of, right? Maybe they were good at everything, but, it wasn't like,
They choose a specialty.
Well, I would say they probably did, as boys do, right? Like all of a sudden you were but maybe he was good at everything, as men were. They all knew how to build longhouses or canoes or fish weirs, or they probably all had, like my dad. My dad was extremely resourceful. He was a, carpenter. He knew how to build. He had a commercial fishing boat. He was a hunter. We have pictures of him with deer. So, I mean, that's a traditional man, right? And then the women, they then, learned to basket weave. They actually were together. Mm-hmm. And they talked about, like, what could disrupt our harmony. Like, we're sitting together like women do. Like we got to talk about all the good things and bad things about life, and what could actually disrupt.
In the next village and what's happening with children.
Just like when we were together with that group of women, we were discussing things. We weren't actually. We should have been, but
hands.
We weren't weaving or we weren't knitting but that's what women do, right?
Yeah.
Women make a blanket.
Yep.
I have a question for you. Why did August Jack share all of these stories with, was it Constable Matthews?
Major Matthews.
Major Matthews. Why would he? He was they were really good friends. And I think that he just because Major Matthews asked him these questions. And Major Matthews also bought like carvings off him and things like that. So he went to visit him a lot. He would be busy off on his own and doing stuff. He actually got reprimanded by one of his aunties, though, because she thought that he was living too much in the white world, and he was getting sick. So she told him that he was living too much in the white world, and
that he should back off. Yeah, he had stomach issues and things. It seemed to me anxiety sort of driven, because he had ulcers.
I think many of the old people too had close relationships with non-natives. Mary Khatsalano, for instance, she used to take her canoe over, and that she was friends with the sawmill over there, and the Hotel Vancouver, and the people in Shaughnessy. She went and visited, and she was like a great. I think maybe there was something in he got something out of it too. Like he bought carvings off him. they might have, he got something out of it too, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, he was interviewed also by a lot of anthropologists of the time who
Right.
would roll through
Right.
on their summer junkets from university. So he did a lot of kind of primary. He was considered a primary source for so many different people.
And maybe he
Different
knew that
universities,
maybe
right?
he knew that it would be written down and it would be important that it was, because he knew that to write things down was important, because that whole memory way of keeping knowledge
He
was
saw it was
not
changing.
It was changing, so that's why he had asked my dad to write these things down too.
Yeah.
So he had his work verified, like what was written by Matthews. He brought it home to have it verified before he turned it in.
Who, Matthews? Or?
No,
Oh.
Khatsahlano,
Oh.
before he let Matthews print it.
Oh.
Just to,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, he said, I had it
Yeah,
checked to make sure
right.
that my words were true or
Right.
right. So he,
Well, see, that's another part of that culture too, right? Like,
Yeah.
if somebody was to read something that they didn't believe was true, he could get reprimanded, or they wouldn't.
He wanted it right.
Yeah, they would consider him a liar or something, right? Like, or that that's telling untruths,
Yeah.
which is really bad. Like, he would say about his father, like his
He
father.
talked about that, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, well, it's, you know, when I read it, it's like he was born right around the time his father died. So his father was
Right.
kicked in the head with a cow.
Right.
And he had quite a bad month of it before he passed. But I don't know whether he was a tiny little child or he was just born. Because there's only one reference to him being born in Shithus, which is, or Shilus, or, you know, at that point, right?
Right.
On the home ranch. But a lot of writing puts him born in Sanok, where he wasn't born. He was born on the family farm,
Right.
which I thought was interesting
Yeah.
too, because there's several, like, when I kind of kept reading through and you know, you read it and then you read it again and then you pick up something new,
Right.
and I'm like, wait a second. He was born there. He wasn't, and it made more sense that
Right.
he was actually born on their farm, like their homestead, not born at a different place, because his mom wouldn't have traveled at that time so close to, and I mean, she had other children too, so I think he was one of the youngest that came along at the time. And it was after that his dad passed right around the time of birth. So his mom didn't remarry till she remarried Dominic Charlie. And I think he became his teacher. Because he took him as a son.
Yeah.
Right. He just
And he
accepted
loved him too.
Yeah, he
He
accepted
said he was
him
a
fully
kind,
as a son.
and that's the other thing that they talk about too, is that when because a lot of the women outlived their husbands because of the treacherous jobs these men had, dangerous jobs these men had. Many of them died, like mount goat hunting, for instance.
Yeah.
That when a man passed, the women, whether they were encouraged or but they would marry. They would even marry a brother or a relative of their, preferably a brother, because that child would still be loved
Stay in the same
and have the same
familial.
grandparents.
Yeah, stay in the same
Yeah.
familial.
So, and I mean, it just is like a real sustainable stewardship values that they really went by, because it was good for everybody.
It was good for the children.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were forward thinking about looking after the children. It was different when they brought that different way of being here to this country, and it was a whole different way of, you know, I mean, all the fur traders came in, they married wives, and then they left and went home to their other wives, left those women behind. I know Khatsahlano talks a little bit about he didn't like the treatment of wives. His sister married a white man, but he died and left her with children, and other people came in and kicked her out because he said she couldn't own land. Right?
Yeah.
So they put her out, and she couldn't, they couldn't return home either.
A very
so
colonial way, isn't it? Like the difference is like so, and that generation having to like be, it must have been terrible.
Yeah, I
live in
can't
that
even imagine.
generation.
Well, because for him to be speaking about
Yeah.
it and saying it's terrible treatment of her.
Well,
my
he lived
sister, so
half in the culture and half in the white world.
Yeah, because he
And-
wasn't raised in residential school.
You know.
He was
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
He was completely not there, but his children all went.
Yeah, he used to walk like from Squamish. There was a trail that came all the way down. My dad was talking about him walking all the way. Does it say it in there? Talking about him walking
Coming
from
from the-
Squamish all the way
all the way
down to.
down. Well, it said that he mapped a lot of the waterways, so
Yeah.
he was all over.
And there's some of the
place.
things that he did that, like, I don't think anybody, like, he talks about the, not Thomas, but the paint,
Yeah.
like, and how, and where they got the paint, and it was in this creek, and it was in this, like, the blue paint.
Yep.
Like, that's a mystery. Like,
I
I don't think
know.
I've ever seen or heard anybody actually
Find blue
knowing
paint,
where,
that blue
yeah.
clay was. Yeah. But again, he spent a lot of time up in those bushes.
Oh, did he ever? For sure.
Yeah.
I think he even gold panned and stuff like that.
Well,
I
he
think that's
mapped
when
all the
his
waterways
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
And
And
plus,
that-
he was looking for treasure that he gave his mom money, and she buried it in the beach. She didn't know what to do with it, so she just buried it. He spent years looking for that.
God,
trying
that's
to
so
find
cute.
it.
That would
So
be.
he kept talking about it every now and then.
Oh
He
my
says, "I still haven't
God,
found
oh
that
my
treasure."
God.
It was just those stories in there.
And then he had 3 Squaiqui masks too.
I know.
Yeah.
And he went over to the island. Somebody asked him to come over. He sits down, and this old man sees him, and he says, "You need to come see me." So before he went home, he went to visit this old man, and he kept looking behind him, and he was uncomfortable.
Oh my
and
God,
it
I
didn't
heard that
feel
story
right.
too.
What's the story? What's the story?
Well, he was asked to go to the island to speak. So Khatsalano's invited over there by these people. He goes to speak. He has a day there. And sometime during that day, there's a very old man there, and he sees him. So Khatsalano noticed him, but then he noticed that he was trying to get his attention. So towards the end of the day, he went and he sat with him and had a conversation with this old man. The old man invited him to his home and said, "You need to come and see me." So he said, "Well, the only time I have is I can come tomorrow morning before I head back home." So he said, "Okay, please do that." So he went to visit this old man in the morning, and he invited him in, and he had him sit at the end of a table, and behind him was stuff covered with a blanket. So he has this conversation with him, but he's feeling kind of weird, and he's kind of shifting, and he's moving and stuff, and the old man's watching him, and they're talking for a while, and then he's like, he says to him, he says, "Are you uncomfortable?" or something, like he made some comment to him, and he says, "Yeah," he says, "I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's something here or something going on." He says something like that anyways, and the old man says to him, he says, "Lift the blanket." So when he looks under the blanket, there's the mask. And he says to me, he says, it was talking to him. It was trying to get his attention. And so he said, why that old man wanted him to come was that mask belonged here. And it belonged in his family, and he knew that. So when he saw him, he knew that's what he wanted to do, was give him this mask. And he knew that having him come to his place, that he'd be able to tell if it was the right thing. And by his discomfort, like Khatsalano's discomfort, he knew it was
Wow, that's so
supposed to
crazy.
go
Yeah,
there, right? But people that are dancers and that are connected to their spirit
right.
so strongly,
Yeah,
they pick up on those.
Yeah,
They just know, because they have
Definitely.
that connection to spirit.
yeah.
And he had an unbroken connection to
And that's the
spirit.
power of the Squaihui mask too,
Yes, it is.
because that story of Chukwath, the first ancestors of Chukwath,
Come out of Beaver Lake.
and know the second brother, Schalalton, he came second, and when he came, he was dancing on Sekonstan's house, his longhouse. He had a Squaihui mask, so he brought the Squaihui mask to Gibson's. But in this situation with the two brothers living there, they hunted a sea lion, and where Sekonstan was living, no Salalton, where Salalton was living at Skunk, which is at Gibson's Creek, just in front of him was where the sea lion rested on this rock. And so when the sea lion came, they came closer to his household. So what was happening was he and his family were the first to get out to the sea lion. So Sekonstan's family were left out. So there was sort of this angst between the brothers. This one kind of like found a way. He had some powers, and he put powers into this wooden sea lion. He was like figuring out, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I heard this.
and then
Okay, yes.
and then so he told his family when he finally got the sea lion to work, not to go out and harpoon this sea lion because it was a magical sea lion.
Right.
So it went out there, and this Schalalton and his family went out and they harpooned the sea lion. And the sea lion put them in a trance, and the whole family had their harpoons, and the sea lion took them out and
all the
brought
way
them
out.
over to Pentlacat,
Right, a different
and to
place.
and to Pentlacat, and to like Cowichan Bay, and as they started going around the corner, they started to wake up from their trances, and they let go, and those people
Stayed there.
stayed there,
That's how
and
they came to
and
be.
the Squaihui mask went with them.
There you go.
So supposedly the people of Gibson's lost the use of that Squaihui mask because Salalton took that mask with him
When he went.
to the island.
Wow.
And
so then it came back.
I don't know if it came back, but our relatives are on that island.
Yeah.
So that's when those relatives are saying this mask belongs to the Squamish people. Now, this is my understanding of that story, right? That mask went to that island through not Sekonstan, Salalton.
Salalton.
Yeah. And that's kind of like my understanding of how that mask, because that man was supposedly, I have that letter from August Jack talking about that story. He says,
I gotta get you to send me a copy of that.
I gotta send you copies. I have to send you copies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
Well, that's good. Now that I know
Yeah.
that you live over here too, then
Yeah.
it's nice
Yeah.
and close. It's easy to connect up.
yeah.
It's so nice to watch you two.
Back and forth and all this stuff.
But in connecting your stories, like what
Yeah.
you know and what I've heard, and just like it's
All
just
the
a very
pieces.
yeah. And even Ruth, like I'm talking to Ruth, and she's like, oh yeah, I remember Dad talking about like that. Ruth knows a lot. My sister Ruth,
Yeah, it's
like
been a
she
while
knows,
since I've talked to
she
Ruth.
knows so
Really such a
much.
long time.
You know what I find so like? Thank you for coming and sharing, because I feel like the everyday Canadian citizen here in Vancouver, you know, like you're walking downtown, you don't understand how deep and how people have been here for time immemorial, right? And there are these stories, and the people here are so connected to the land here. You know what I mean? And
it's good for our people too to
Yeah.
learn and know and feel like we're a part of the story that this land from our ancestors. So we are still connected to all of our lands through the stories that connect all of our ancestors to.
The land here is sacred.
It
It's
is
an
extremely.
unbroken line
When-
all the way through.
When Granny passed away, I don't know if I've ever told this story, but when Granny passed away, there was the service, and we all went to the service, and none of us are Catholic in our side of the family, so we hung back and told stories about Granny and her flirting with us and all that type of stuff, you know. And then I remember we didn't have enough room in the car, so I walked back here, and I knew her spirit was happy. She got what she wanted when she passed away, and the lands like lifted for her that day, and they were happy to see her go home. And I remember that. And you just, when you read Khatsalano's book, which I recommend everybody ever listens to this read, looks like this, but you really understand how much the land is here. And then you also, after having all these conversations, the last 14 conversations that we've had so far, is like, you also notice how colonization, urbanization created the disconnect. You know what I mean? Like, even like, how much has this place changed since you were growing up here? A lot?
Oh yeah, I grew up on the Mission Reserve, so it was like Sechelt when I went there. It was like little town. It was like a little town.
Yeah.
We all knew each other all the way.
Road, bush,
even the non-natives all the way up we knew because they all lived in the same wartime houses.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were our relatives, like the Cortecitos lived off the reserve, and the Silvas lived off the reserve, and then there was just blackberry bushes all the way down Lonsdale. We used to run around the blackberry bushes all the time, and then the trestle, the train,
train bridges,
the beach when we were kids, and when the marina was first built, and that was fun too. Just like. So, I mean, that is like nothing like it used to be either. But, I mean, I was actually a young girl, and there was a lacrosse box down there that, you know, before the marina.
Oh, right. And
well, I think there was a small lacrosse box.
Yeah, because there was lots of swamp and lots of, not because it wasn't really, it didn't.
And we used to swim down there too. We used to be able to swim down there on Burrard Inlet.
With the canoes coming in and out, because that's how everybody traveled through. It was mostly marshy coming up to it, the beach.
Couple last questions here for you. What do you want the youth to start focusing on or thinking about today, or actioning today?
Well, I'm really proud that our youth are being taught the language, and many of them are becoming fluent speakers and teachers. And they were youth when they learned, and now they're all like graduating and getting their masters in the language. And the youth are learning the songs, singing the songs, and learning about their ancestry and who their ancestors are. I think those things are the best preventative medicine for like, I think physical fitness is what Western society concentrates on. Like you run or you exercise, you go to the gym, like you're fit and everything. But there's also, our people were extremely physically fit, obviously. But they also did protocols before every time they went out and hunted or fished, because they knew of the danger that if they didn't come home, who's going to take care of their family, right? So they actually did protocol. Protocol is a way of teaching yourself to be respectful and prayerful and spiritual. So you're actually exercising that spiritual side of yourself as well. So 50% of your life in traditional has to be, and it should be today. We should be singing, we should be storytelling, because they're a part of every human wellness,
Yeah.
right? I mean, everybody has to know the stories to eliminate stigmas, right?
And know where you come from, know
Where
who
who you are.
and your names.
Yeah.
Your name.
And I think physical and spiritual practices are extremely important because they are they balance mental and emotional health as well. Like you, if you're prayerful, you're positive.
Yeah.
You never pray for anything bad. I hope not. Anyway, but, you know.
Which is kind of the
Yeah.
thing you think. that
And
it
just
should
prayer is a positive, is setting your mind into a positive energy, right? And so our kids sing. So they're actually, they may not go to church like we did, but they're singing and they're
They are
practicing.
prayers.
Yeah, they're practicing the positiveness, which is helping them to become extremely proud of who they are. They know who they are, and self-confidence. I think those things are what all I wish for our kids, because I think we had it when we were kids. Anyway, I did. Like I was allowed to do I was taught a lot of good things when I was a kid. And but I didn't get the culture, right? Which I wish I had.
Yeah. Does it make it hard for you to kind of understand the language, to try to learn?
When I was, how old was I? I was in high school when they started the language at St. Thomas Aquinas. Vanessa Campbell, who's an elder here now, and Uncle Louis, they taught the language at the school. Kathy, Alroy, all of our teachers now were in that course. I was in it too, but I was a year ahead of them, so I think I might have graduated after the first year.
Right.
But I was also discouraged from it being, I don't even want to say it, but I was discouraged about like the way I was speaking the language. So to me, it was like, okay, I'm not saying it right, so I'm not going to learn it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. But now I would love to learn it. I'm not sure that I'm going to put 100% of my time trying to learn it, but I am taking some little bit of courses and my introduction to my talk at the end of the month is in the language.
In the language.
Yeah.
So where you come from, who
Yes,
you are,
yeah,
and who your family is.
what my Indian name is, and where I was born, and where I come from.
Would you like to be a guest on our Storytellers? Because all you have to do to connect with us is just email info@ourstorytellers.ca, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. That sounds like a voicemail, which I think is hilarious. But if you email us, we'll give you a call and we'll listen to your story, and we'll probably film it. So please reach out to us if you're interested in being a guest, because we love to share stories from all walks of life, from all different experiences. We think that everybody's story is valuable and that you can learn from anybody's story. So please email us, and we'll schedule a call with you as soon as we can. That also sounds like a voicemail, but back to the podcast. What does ceremony mean to you?
Ceremony is anything. It could be, and we're in ceremony right here. This is a very important discussion, because we're sharing with each other things that are important for us to share.
Yeah.
Because you will, and we will go on adding to our
knowledge,
our
experience,
and then sharing it, right?
with everybody
Yeah,
else.
and people who are watching this can may also get something out of it. So the ceremony, to consider this to be ceremony, is to put into this circle that we're experiencing right now. A lot of things that are important that people know. Stories that people know, because it'll only enlighten people who are interested or are on the path, and the information that we're sharing with them might give them a eureka moment.
And give them a different perspective.
Yeah, it could
too.
add to their knowledge, and they go on to do that. So I think ceremony is everything that you can make. Everything that you can make a ceremony should be made a ceremony, because then you make it more of a sacred moment. And traditionally it would have been, our people would have been sitting around
Doing this
Yeah.
all the time, quite
Yeah.
regularly,
Yeah.
and they were always in.
They were.
They're very prayerful people.
They
very,
are
very much
Very-
connected to spirit, because they
always
would pray in the
sharing
morning.
stories, always.
Yeah.
And because of the memory thing, they, like my friend Kathy, I love her, she's a language teacher, and when we talk, I won't say this if it's going on.
You want me to take it out?
I know, yeah.
Things can be removed and edited.
Well,
too,
you
that-
know, my cousin Kathy, she'll tell me a story,
Yeah.
and then sometime later we'll be talking again, and she'll tell me the same story. And then sometime later she'll like she's never
Yeah.
told me before. I never cut her off.
Yeah.
I let her tell the story, right? And then I think of it as that like, I'll never forget the story because she's told me so many times.
You have
Right?
it imprinted.
Yes.
And now.
And that's the way our old people were. Uncle Louis in that book also talks about like about learning the stories. Like, I can't remember, but he knows a lot of the myths and legends, the stories, right?
Yeah.
And he said that the old people would be like sitting around the fire at nighttime, and all of the kids would be laying on the floor, and they're supposed to be sleeping.
But they're listening.
Yeah, and he said that the old people would start talking about like something. They'd start talking about like a story. They'd start telling stories.
Yeah.
And he would be like, he knows he's supposed to be sleeping, but he'd be listening.
Yeah.
But he said that they knew he was awake,
Yeah.
and that he was, it's almost like August Jack in the canoe.
Yeah,
Right?
they're
she-
telling these
yeah.
stories so that they sink in,
Yeah.
and they come
And
into
so
them
he
and
then,
can tell them.
tells those stories. He's told those stories consistently when he was alive, all the time. Every time he had the opportunity. We went to Squamish once, and we stayed up at Stopmiss at the hall, and it's like pitch black up there.
Yeah.
And of course he's telling us a story about Calculaeth, or like almost like a scary campfire story, but
Yeah.
it's one of our
Little ghost
legends,
story.
and that'll always stay with me, because Calculaeth was like, like a monster, right? And it's
Yeah.
dark, and it's pitch black up there, and it's like, it's like Sasquatch territory up there.
Yes.
So definitely understand
wild
how
man.
that works. Yeah.
Would you like to dedicate this podcast to anyone?
I would like to dedicate this podcast to my teachers, my dad, of course. I miss him so much. His name, James P. Nahanee, and his ancestral name was Sechelt. And I add the T on the end because he's passed. I'd also like to dedicate it to my mom, Frida Thorne Nahanee. She's Cowichan, and she's taught me a lot. And her ancestral name is Menathelwit. So my mom and my dad.
Is there anything that
Beautiful.
you wish we would have asked you that we haven't asked you?
I wouldn't ask me anymore. I'll just keep talking. I don't know. I don't really know. I think this was really nice. I really like to talk about what we've been talking about, because Kathy and I, Kathy lives down here, and I was living in Sechelt, and we were close. Our grandmothers were sisters, and our dad and her mom were best friends growing up, so we're pretty close. Anyway, one day we have this, I don't know if you've ever read it or seen it, but there's a land use and occupancy study, Squamish Nation.
Yeah, I have it
Yeah.
upstairs.
Yeah. we have
Okay, so
upstairs.
the land use and occupancy study Kathy, we were talking about it. I don't know what we were. I think we were talking about Jaquath. Anyway, so she has the book, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I see that there. I'm like, something about I don't know, and she goes, how do you know? And I said, I have the map. And she's like, and we both start cracking up because we're doing this whole conversation. She has the book, and I have the map. And it was meant to be, you know, it was meant to be that conversation because we were very attentive as to like what she was talking about, and I don't think we had cell phones at the time because no, I don't think so. I would have took a picture of the map, but yeah, that's something that I really love that book too. Tells a lot of, and that book was actually made because of the stolen lands in 1964. And that is like a blessing in disguise.
They started the real reduction and stealing of our land starting somewhere around when they took Stanley Park from us. Mm-hmm. That's where the real initial starting up of all the removals began.
Right.
And then when the removals, they tried to put a stop to it by going to court. Then they changed the Indian Act to say you couldn't take anybody to court that was white. And then it just kind of compiled as they go along. And then all that history of trying to, they created, you know, out of the Royal Commission, they created the BC Betterment Act. And that BC Betterment Act reduced the size of our reserves to touch points only, because we were never meant to fully occupy those touch point reserves. It was only so we could go and fish, you know, fish trade and then leave the urban area and go somewhere else. They didn't care where, but go somewhere else. So it's, you know, when we look at why we have such small reserves here, part of the reason was all of the legislation that came. And then there was a book that was just released not long ago called Cheated. And it talks about the Laurier Liberal government between the 1890s and into the even up to the 1920s, I think. But that Laurier government occupied for a really long time, and they went on a ton of surrenders, that they forced the surrenders. So they would go and sit with the band, they'd have the agent go, and they'd do a referendum, you know how they count? And they'd say, everybody put your hand up and say who's going to surrender, and you know, and most of them would say no. And then they'd go, okay, and they'd talk for the day, and then they'd send them all away, and then they'd say, well, you have to come back the next day, and some of them would come back. And then they'd do another referendum, and it would still come back not in their favor. So they'd send them away again, and the third day they'd get even less because the people were like, we've already told you what we wanted, stop. Then they'd do that referendum, and it would pass. So they'd get their surrender. So they would stack it till they could effect the result that they were looking for. So this book talks about how this was going on like across the country. That government was effective in reducing the land base of Indigenous lands in like a 20-year period by over 21% across the entire country. Is, you know, one of the big things that happened, right? So there were several, but of course in BC, in those times, they were looking to do no treaties and to ensure that our people just didn't exist at all, so that assimilation was the only option. So you're reading it and you're thinking, this seems, as we start talking about our current and where we are, you see how the reduction came to the point where we have very small pieces of lands here, and lots of confusion about what our actual history is here, unless you're older and you've done a lot more research, because our younger people are not, they haven't had that chance to maybe have as much of that.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky that people like Khatsahlano and Louis Miranda really recorded a lot of stuff.
Oh, it made
It's
there's such
like,
jewels of knowledge.
yeah, and even the old, even the books written by the anthropologists, because they do have information on their conversations with people, even though they put in doubt everything practically. But you kind of have to, with the old anthropology books, you have to really read between the lines, and you have to think about how
They're written by old white guys.
Yeah, and how the culture was. Because some people will say that to me, because I sell used books, and they'll say, "Oh, that's full of non-truths and stuff." And I'm like, "Well, you know what it says? It says how the people were in that generation when that book was written. What you have to do is you have to look at what the Indigenous people were saying, rather than what the doubt that is put, like him
Being
doubting
sown underneath.
doubting what his Khatsalano's father was saying.
Yeah.
He was like, "Do you really believe that? Like, you're calling my father a liar here, right?" And
Yes, and he sternly came
Yes,
back at
he
him.
did.
He says he sternly came back at me with a rebuke, made me not want to ask him again. And I thought, it's because, but he still put the note in as a big part of the writing when he was writing it. Like, he was still sowing the seeds of doubt.
Well,
You
of
know,
course
'cause, when I look at this book, I actually started taking it apart.
Right.
And I started putting Matthew's notes as footnotes,
Oh yeah.
and I put the letters from the archivist as appendices.
Yeah.
Because they don't deserve prominence. It wasn't about them, right?
But I think you can understand that when you're actually studying the Indigenous cultures as compared to the white culture that came in. I mean, the white culture that came in, the Western culture that came in was to, manifest destiny, right?
Yes.
Whereas ours is like, we want to take care and we want to make sure it's there.
Non-interference.
But these guys just wanted like the furs, and they wanted to wipe them out because they were worth so much money. Then they went after the salmon. Then they went after the trees, all the resources. And that's all they wanted, was the money from the resources.
They wanted,
right?
it
And
was
look what's going on now.
extraction-based.
Yeah.
Extraction-based.
And it still is. Even the early settlers, the first settlers, like when they were giving away lands, when they were preempting lands to people, all they had to do was go and write in the West. They wanted this land, but the only stipulation was they had to clear that land.
Yes.
So here's clear cutting starting immediately with the first settlers, and it still continues on today.
Yes, it is.
We have massive clear cutting still going on in Sechelt.
Yeah.
Fran, thank you. Keep going after I turn the cameras off. Keep going after I turn the cameras
We're meeting
off.
tomorrow after lunch, too.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the Our Storytellers podcast, and thank you for taking the time to teach me. Like, I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
I'm very appreciative, and it's nice to see Mom in her element.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.